think people might start asking, like, man, maybe Tua was better than we thought because this offense is night and day without him. Tennessee, God, dude, Will Levis, that first interception, like, what are you looking at? He came over the sidelines and everyone's saying like he came over the sidelines and he lipped like I didn't see him. How? That's a big boy. That's a defensive lineman that dropped back.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Piet.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Score podcast. My name is Pat. This is my co-host, TYG, Tyler Pratt. Tyler, how we be doing?
Oh, we be doing. We be doing. Not a bad Sunday. I tell you what, this Sunday was probably the first weekend or week of football where those 1 o'clock games, that 1 o'clock window right down to the end, I'm fucking locked. And I'm on 3 TVs and I'm like, what? What's going on? And Red Zone, Scott's trying to do his best, but we really need Andrew back in there. I'm doing though.
Yeah, that 1 o'clock slate, there were a lot of games that really came down to the wire in the end. Very entertaining Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
If you're on YouTube right now, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Appreciate everybody for listening. Let's start it out with our dime of the week before we go through all of these dimes from week 4. We're going to go through the whole entire slate. But let's start it out with dime of the week. This week's dime of the week award, making his debut this season, Patrick Mahomes. And it's funny because I started thinking about, dime of the week and game-changing play. And I think this is rare. This is a rare case where the same play applies to both, because it was dime of the week and it changed the whole momentum of that game in that Chiefs-Chargers late window Sunday. Chiefs just had nothing going. They were down 10-0. 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Mahomes drops back and just slings it probably 60 yards in the air to Xavier Worthy, who's fast as hell, dude. But what a perfect throw. Absolute dime. Like I said, 60 yards in the air. You couldn't have thrown it any better. He ran right under it, dove, caught it. Great catch in the end zone. And after that, it was all Kansas City Chiefs. Completely flipped the momentum. It went from 10-0, and then they scored 17 unanswered to get the big division win. Dime of the week, Patrick Mahomes. Let's stick on this game for right now. Since we already talked about it, I already mentioned, it flipped the whole momentum, that throw. Just turned the game upside down. Obviously, we got to talk about Rashee Rice, knee injury. Him going down, he's the one guy in that offense that makes you worry, I think, by him not being out there. I think that is some real concern for that offense, because of Rashee Rice has been that guy to pick up every conversion, chunk play, middle of the field. He has run some big-time routes, had some big-time catches in his first, year plus in the league with Mahomes. He's instantly they've got a great connection going. So that's the one guy in that offense that makes you a little worried, I think, if you're a Chiefs fan, him not being in there, even more than Kelsey, and that says a lot. So I want to get your opinion on that, Tyler. What you think needs to happen? Is it going to be a couple, lull weeks for this offense without Rice being out there? Some guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman, these guys are going to have to step up. But the thing is, folks, Mahomes has literally just did this last year. Just did this. I know Rashee Rice was there last year, but it was still below par. You know what I mean? Receiving core that he won a Super Bowl with. And I know Pacheco's out too for a bit, so that's just another loss. Hollywood Brown's not going to be back for the regular season, so they just keep losing. But as long as Mahomes is out there with Andy Reid, and you still got Kelsey, by the way, you still got a really good O-line, and they're going to find ways to get it done in the run game. You saw Kareem Hunt; he had a pretty good day, and they're just going to keep finding ways. So I know the national media is going to make a big deal about Rice going down for the Chiefs, and they're going to start to, make these segments up about, are the Chiefs in trouble? Not to mention the defense, the way their defense has looked this season, I'm not worried at all. This team's going to find ways to produce enough offense to win games because, by the way, it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. As long as those two things are there, I feel good about the Chiefs. But what were your thoughts on this game as a whole, and then Rice not being in that offense for the near future?
I'll start with Rice. I think, it's just to echo what you said. It's not really that big a deal. I think they're going to make it work. It's Mahomes. We always talk about how great quarterbacks make their wide receivers or their, skill positions better. It's what Mahomes does. Mahomes doesn't need top end number one receivers. He gets it done with what he has. I think you'll see kind of what you saw through the rest of that game, which was more Kelsey. That's, I think, what you're going to see right away is them, even if he's not getting 100 yards a game, at least you're going to see those targets increase. And then those other guys have to step up. What, Juju, Mecole Hardman, whoever else they have in the skeleton crew, like they'll probably work out some guys, or maybe they'll look to, they'll look to a team that's got no hold. Maybe like, I hate to even, no, it's no way it happens, but like a couple things that were brought up, right? Devontae Adams, no way the Raiders trade him there. And, you look to a team like the Jags who have a few contracts in that wide receiver room. Maybe they want to get a Christian,
T. Higgins.
No way the Bengals trade him to the Chiefs. Here's the thing. The league as a whole should just not help them out, but someone will do it. Someone's going to be like, yeah, we want return on this asset that's going to leave anyways.
What if the Bengals would have lost, though, this past week to Carolina? Or say they lose this week to Baltimore and it doesn't look good and you fall to 1-4, and the Chiefs offer you, I don't know, a 2-3 or a 2-4 for T. Higgins, who you're not going to have next year anyways. Do you really, is it really going to stop you? You're not going to be competing with them most likely anyways.
No, I would call every other team in the league and say, hey, do you want T. Higgins? Chiefs are giving us a 2-4. Give us a 2-4. We'll give them to you. That's what I think they should do. But yeah, I mean, they're going to make some calls. They're going to see who they can get. The Chiefs they're not scared to make moves, that they're, again, like they don't, I feel like they don't need to.
Get frustrated in Miami, man. I don't know what the contract situation would look like, but I'm just saying, does Tyreek Hill stick it out all year? I think he's 30 or 31 now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know they just paid him big time.
Yeah.
But
well, there's a couple free agents out there. Yeah, what about well, they can go and speaking of the Dolphins, why don't you get like an OBJ, right? Someone who is risk free.
I don't think.
No risk, high reward. Michael Thomas, unless he's like a cancer, but he's still a free agent, you work him out. Hit up Dez Bryant. Dez will come in and do it right away. But yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. If Odell is fully healthy and you can count on him to be healthy, for the remainder of the season, that's a no-brainer. I agree. But he just hasn't been healthy. Like since he was a great addition when the Rams won it all. And he was killing Cincy in the first half of that Super Bowl. And then unfortunately gets a knee injury He misses a large chunk. And then last season got hurt in Baltimore as well. So
Yeah.
do you really trust that? I don't know. I think you need a more reliable option. But any takes on the Chargers after this game?
Yeah, I thought that we had our, I thought we had our bet locked in. Like, well, the +7. I know that our juicy bet hit. We hit, we teased it up to I think 10 or 10.5, and then took the under. But
Teaser part.
yeah, that was our juicer, one of our juicers. But I did bet them at +7, and I felt so comfortable at like almost the entire game. Because they go up 10-0 with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. The Chargers, they go up 10-0 with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. I'm like, this might be in the bag, and then they don't score again for the rest of the game. So I always find myself circling back to the same thing with this team, and I'm not really going to go too much into detail with it because I also don't think it's fair yet. But it's like Justin Herbert. At like, when are you going to take this team over? I know it's a new offense, new coach, they're run heavy, but like, and he's hurt, he's playing hurt, which you got to admire and respect. But like, at some point, dude, like, when is this guy? Like, we all know how talented he is. Like, when is he just going to take over? That's what I want to know with Justin Herbert. But other than that, I think that the Chiefs are just going to continue to get it done with very little. And next week, who are they fucking playing?
Saints.
Saints. And I'm going to be all over the. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think, yeah, because I think the Saints were like +5 when I looked at it, and I almost jumped all over it. But I was like, let me wait.
Yep, Monday night. Arrowhead. We'll see. That's a big game for the Saints, man.
Yeah.
You got to go into Kansas City, losing 2 in a row, but we'll see what happens. Let's move into this 1 o'clock slate. I know it's a little off starting with a 4 o'clock game.
Fuck it.
But let's move into the 1 o'clock slate. Let's talk about my Rams. Went into Chicago, took the L 24-18. Takeaways from this game is the Rams' efficiency in the red zone was just horrible, and that was the difference in the game. They just couldn't get it done in the red zone. They had to kick field goals instead of, putting up 7, and that's what killed them. And then they also missed a field goal. There was a debatable defensive pass interference. In my opinion, they called on Tre'Davious White in the end zone that set Roschon Johnson up for a 1-yard touchdown run that kind of got the ball rolling for Chicago. But at the end of the day, the Rams just couldn't get it done in the red zone. And then even the 2-point conversion play didn't look like a crisp 2-point conversion play. So that is concerning, is their red zone efficiency. We also saw some of that in week 1 and week 2. So offensive line looks much better, I will say. But the front defensively, that was embarrassing. The Chicago Bears haven't been able to run it on anybody all season. And going back to that game, I think that says more about our run defense right now than it does about the Bears' run game. I don't necessarily think that they figured it out. I just think that we look soft up front in this game, and that was embarrassing. For out of all of the matchups that went on going into this week that you were thinking about, that's one matchup I did not see us losing, was their front dominating our defensive line the way they did. So once again, I think it's more of a reflection of us defensively. We got some things to figure out. And then there were some good throws that Caleb made. I do want to point out, give him his flowers. There were some quality throws. The touchdown throw he had DJ Moore was really nice. And there was another one where he fitted in the seam route right in the middle of the field over a defender's head, and he just layered it in there perfectly. Swift looked good, but I'm not overreacting and saying, like I said, that they've completely figured it out. I do like Roschon Johnson, though. This dude just runs hard. I've seen him in the past, but after seeing a full game of him, you could just tell there's a difference, like when he takes the ball and he's going up the gut than when you see it with Swift, because he hits the hole hard, and he's a big boy too, and he can move. So promising game from the Bears offensively. Their defense is, what they are. They won that game late for them. Torrey Taylor, explanation points. Torrey Taylor was phenomenal for the Bears. What an X factor to have a punter you could just count on pinning the other team inside the 10, inside the 20, late in games when the game's on the line. That's such a factor that people don't consider. I think he had like an 85-yard net punt in this game. It was just ridiculous. So when you could do that and play great defense and then not turn the ball over, you're going to win some games. That's a great formula. And I know Jayden Daniels, who we're going to talk about, it looks a lot prettier with him right now. But either way, it was a good win for Caleb, and the Bears needed it moving forward. Jaquan Brisker, another player, played tremendous in this game for the Bears. He was all over the field, stuffing runs. He had the game-clinching pick, and then he almost had another one, but he went out of bounds and came back inbounds. But he played extraordinary game as well. But one more thing, Jared Verse looks like a real player for the Rams. I put Rookie of the Year bet on him when he was like plus 1,300 beginning of the year. And I'm feeling really good about that because, once again, it was another great game for him. But go ahead.
Yeah, didn't they take Verse over Turner?
Turner was gone, I believe.
Oh, okay. So they picked after, because he went to the Saints, no?
Or you're right. Maybe, no, he went to the Vikings.
Or the
And I think
Vikings,
the Vikings
that's right.
were 21 or 22.
Yeah, the Vikings traded up to get him. I remember that.
Okay, that's why then.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, this game was, like you said, I think it was the red zone efficiency. You can't go, talked about it before, you can't go 1 for 4 in the red zone and expect to win a game. You got to be at least around 50%. That's where the Bears were. Bears were 2 for 4. Rams were 1 for 4. Goal to go, 1 for 2. So they had it down inside the 10, couldn't get it done. Turnovers was the real, anytime you're minus in the turnover margin, you have a slim chance to win. They were -2. They lost a fumble, and they threw an interception. The Bears didn't turn the ball over. Caleb played a clean game, which that's all I'm looking for from Caleb moving forward is like efficiency and limit the turnovers. He did both of those this game. You got to play to your strengths. What's the Bears' strength right now? Defense. So how do you play to your defense, being the strength of your team as an offense? Don't turn the ball over. Be efficient. That's what they did. They got the W. It was a good game though. That was a good competitive game. And the Bears were the right play this week, but yeah, no, I think, when do the Rams get back Kupp?
I know Kupp is closer than Puka is, but it's not going to be this week. He's already been ruled out this week. So
yeah, I don't know. I just think that the Rams I think they're just gonna be competitive in every game. Their defense just seems like they'll compete, even though they got pushed around this week by the team we didn't think would do that. But I think they'll be all right. Like I said all the time, anytime you got Matt Stafford behind center, I feel confident.
Barn burner in that 1 o'clock slate was the New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons. These teams could play 100 times, and I think I would expect like 99 of the 100 times this matchup to go down to the wire in the end, because I think it's just that competitive and it's that even. I feel like every year these teams are so similar, but the Saints for a long time had a big advantage at head coach, that's for sure. But recently, as of late, like there's a lot of similarity. And after that game, I have the same like feeling that these teams are very like even teams where I could see very similar records at the end of the year. They're both 2-2 right now. 2 straight weeks. The Saints offense has not looked anything like it did those first couple of weeks of the season. I believe it was 16 straight drives to open up the season that they scored on. It was just unbelievable what Klint Kubiak was doing. But it's, back-to-back weeks where it hasn't looked sharp for that offense. Another thing, I thought they really gave this game away, and it made me mad because they were in that underdog parlay. And to start out the game, Shaheed muffs a punt. Atlanta scores. And then they throw a pick six to Anderson. So that's just 14 points that you really gave away in this game. And it came down to them beating you with a last second 58-yard field goal. So this one really hurts, I feel like, if you're the Saints and a Saints fan, especially when you're going to a Monday night game on the road against Kansas City now. This was just a brutal loss for them, in my opinion. And it is a little concerning that their offense is not they don't look very close to what they did those first couple weeks of the season right now. And to touch on the Falcons, Bijan Robinson, 7 carries for 28 yards. And then Kyle Pitts didn't have a catch in this game. So I'll leave it with you with that.
They lost, but they didn't give up a defensive touchdown, right? Like the Falcons didn't score an offensive touchdown. They had that punt block or the muff, and then they had an interception return off of a deflection. Other than that, they kicked 4 field goals. There's your 26 points. The Falcons didn't actually – they got in the red zone one time. The Saints didn't even let the Falcons get inside of goal to go. So the Saints defensively, I thought, played actually very well, and they still ended up losing. Their offense wasn't bad. They just weren't, those first couple weeks you just saw those explosive plays, and you didn't really get, obviously the Eagles held them to very little, and you saw at least Shaheed like heavily involved after not getting, I think, any catches against Philly. He had 11 targets. Olave had 10 targets, 80 plus yards for each of them, 8 catches. Kamara, 7 catches on top of his 19 attempts. He had over 110 total yards with a touchdown. Taysom Hill gets involved, even though he's been playing hurt, apparently. But Carr, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't terrible. It's not like he wasn't efficient, but I don't know. They just didn't get it done.
And Dennis Allen moment happened in this game. I think it was fourth and goal from like the 8-yard line. They were down 23-17. Like you said, Atlanta's offense hadn't been doing anything against them. And I thought that's a moment where you take the 3 points. You go down 3, you turn around, stop them, you're only down a field goal. Well, he didn't take the 3. They didn't get it. They stopped him right away, though. Came down, scored a touchdown. So I thought that was a curious decision by him, just because I feel like, 4th and goal from like anywhere beyond the 5-yard line, that's tough in that situation when you can take 3 and trust your defense because they have been playing so well. But let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers taking their first loss of the season in Indianapolis, 27-24. Flacco's back. Joe Flacco makes his return. Anthony Richardson, these injuries are very concerning at this point. We've talked about, his accuracy, his decision-making hasn't been great. And then the injury conversation is just a whole nother aspect to the Anthony Richardson saga right now. So he leaves the game, first play back in the game after he hurts his hip, I believe it was. They called a read option, and he kept it, and he takes an awkward hit right away, and then he's out of the game. I just thought that was like mind-blowing that he's banged up clearly, and his first play back in is a read option. That was weird to me, but Flacco comes in, gets it done. Pittsburgh battled. This ended up being a really good finish in Indianapolis. George Pickens had a critical fumble in the red zone of this game that played amazing. I think that's a critical play. Going back and looking at how this game played out, that George Pickens fumble hurt them big time.
I think we saw a lot more from them on the offensive end than we've seen all year, clearly. Their defense, we thought this was going to be a good test for their defense because of how good of a run team the Colts are. And you got Jonathan Taylor, who's also, by the way, got a little banged up in this game. It was just one of those where we thought it was a good spot to sell high on Pittsburgh. And, it worked out. But I think Pittsburgh showed a lot like, hey, Justin Fields can throw the ball. Justin Fields inside of the 10-yard line is a problem because of what he can do with his feet. So anytime the Pittsburgh gets down in there, I expect them to score, which is huge, especially for their offense that has struggled to produce touchdowns the first 3 weeks. I think they had 1 total. So to get, what did they get? 3? They had, Fields had 2 runs and then a pass to Freiermuth. So, he's accountable for 3 touchdowns. It was a big showing for Fields because he's never been, I think, statistically, a great quarterback that plays from behind. So, because he's always been a guy who needs to use his feet. No one's ever obviously thought of him as like a passing quarterback or someone who can get it done from the pocket. He needs to make plays outside the pocket, which he did. He did this game, but it was a good game from him. I think if you're a Steelers fan, you're like, oh, okay, like this is something we can build off of. 280 plus pass yards. He threw for 312. I don't know. I don't think that's his first 300 game ever, but Justin Fields throwing for 312. That's a damn good game for him. Getting Pickens 100 plus. Pickens should get 100 plus yards every game. There's no reason why he's that good, and there's nobody else to throw the ball to. Who else are you throwing the ball to on this team? I like Freiermuth, but as a tight end, if you're not one of the top 5 tight ends in the league, you're probably not getting 10 plus targets and 100 plus yards or 80 plus yards even. You're probably going to get that 4 to 8 range, top end 8. And you're probably going to get 40 to 60 yards. That's basically what Freiermuth is. I know he's been banged up as well throughout his career. So I hope he stays healthy because that would be huge for this offense. But anyways, Pickens should get 100 plus yards every game. I think this was a good showing for their offense. It was a good spot to sell high on Pittsburgh. And now the outlook for the Colts is like, let Richardson sit. Let him get healthy because your offense right now, hate to break it to you, you're better off with a healthy Joe Flacco than you are with a 50-50 Richardson. And to your point, I have no clue why they would call that read option. I think Steichen was like, yeah, he's acting banged up. Let's see if he's really hurt.
Basically.
Unbelievable.
That's a great point you made, though, about Fields, like in the red zone. What a weapon to have, like in the read option RPO game. That's tough to stop. What are the Steelers' chances in this division down the line? You got to like them with that defense if this offense can keep it up.
That's actually what I meant to make that comment when we were talking about the Saints-Falcons game is like, if this is what we can expect from them, that's going to be a fun division to watch down the stretch. I know we're only, it's only week 4. We're going into week 5 here, but still the way it's shaping up right now could get real interesting in the NFC South. Same here in the AFC North. If Pittsburgh can keep it up, I know the Colts are in the South, but still, it'll be some good division races. So, I'm excited.
Let's talk about a fellow AFC North team, the Cincinnati Bengals, getting their first dub of the season in Carolina. It was a must-win for this team. They went in and they win 34-24. Offense is clicking in Cincinnati, but they got some issues defensively. And then to touch on the Panthers, I think this is a safe over team to bet for the rest of the season. These Andy Dalton Panthers, you can count on the over because you're starting to see like there's some quality weapons in Carolina. They just weren't getting the ball. There was awful quarterback play going on, to be quite frank. And you see Andy Dalton, he's getting these guys the ball, and they've got some decent playmakers on that Carolina team. Defense isn't so great. Jamar Chase had a great play in this game where he made some guys miss and went deep. And it was bad tackling, but it was a great play by him. And like I said, Bengals offense was clicking. The run game, really, this was the first game you really noticed the run game in Cincinnati. And it was split even, I believe. Chase Brown and Zach Moss each had 15 carries, and they averaged 4.5 yards a carry with a couple touchdowns on the ground. So Chase was the leading receiver with 85 yards, but then T. Higgins had 6 catches for 60 yards. So that's good for them. But the defense is definitely a concern. And now you're playing the Baltimore Ravens this week.
Yeah, no, I think that it's looking at this box score, it's crazy because everything was so similar. Time of possession, first downs, rush yardage, pass yards. Neither team took a sack. Everything you look at, red zone efficiency, Cincy 3 for 3, Carolina 2 for 3. Both efficient. The penalty yardage was damn near the same. Like damn near everything is identical in this box score except for return yardage. Return yardage, Cincinnati 141 to Carolina's 49. Interesting. Just thought I'd point that out. But yeah, I think if Carolina can set themselves up to run the ball more, they'd be pretty successful. Chuba Hubbard, 18 for 104. Even Miles Sanders was somewhat efficient, 6 for 32. Like, they ran the ball pretty well. Not that Cincinnati's got an outstanding run defense, but I think if Carolina can set themselves up to get a lead early, which is asking a lot out of that defense, I know, but they can win some ball games. The crazy stat I heard is their pass block in PFF is graded number 2. Number 2. And all we talked about when Bryce Young was in there was like, yeah, that offensive line's not blocking. Obviously, there was a lot of him problems, but it just looked like he was under pressure all the time. And now with Andy Dalton, he doesn't look like he's under pressure all the time. And they have their pass grade is ranked 2. Interesting statistic I threw out there.
They did. We talked about it in the division previews. Like, they did strive to upgrade that O-line this offseason. And they hadn't been playing terrible the first couple of games. It's just there's a clear issue with Bryce Young. We don't have to go into that any further. It is what it is. But you can see that offense really coming together with Andy Dalton. What a gamer that guy is. Let's move on, though. Philadelphia Eagles taking the loss in Tampa. The Bucs moved to 3-1, 33-16. Whew. I got a question, Tyler.
Yeah.
We talked about Sirianni. That seat was getting pretty hot these last couple of weeks. We feel like. Are you more concerned right now with Nick Sirianni as the head coach of this team, or the possible regression of Jalen Hurts?
Sirianni. I mean, Hurts has had, I think, 17 turnovers in his last 19 games. Like, that's just what I think. It's the same thing almost we kind of always talked about with Josh Allen is like, you know what he's going to give you, but you always expect at least one turnover from him, whether it's a pick or a fumble. I feel like we're kind of in that same boat now with Hurts.
Well, Allen, to his credit, didn't turn the ball over, I believe, at all season until that game in Baltimore. So he's really cleaned it up. But yeah, the turnovers with Hurts, and we talked about it last week. Like, it shouldn't look that ugly, your passing game, when A.J. Brown's not out there. And I know now it was no Devontae Smith either. We didn't expect much from them. That's why I loved the under in this game. But the under was over pretty early because the Bucs just ran it up early in this game. So I didn't. That was a crush. Real early. We know the under wasn't going to be in play for this one. But Saquon, I feel like they got down in that game so early that they couldn't use Saquon the way you need to use Saquon. He finished the day with only 10 carries, and he had 84 yards still. He busted one run in this game. And it's like you can't get away from the run if you're Philadelphia. I don't care what the score is, because you're not going to be able to do it, just airing it out all game, especially when A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith aren't in the lineup. But I think it is a little concerning, Jalen Hurts, but I would have to agree that Sirianni's clear-cut, public enemy number one, Philadelphia. This team just didn't look inspired early in
No.
this game. It didn't look like they wanted to be there. Obviously, they go down real quick, and then they have that catastrophic play on that punt where I texted you about number 34 on the Eagles, who just shoves the Bucks guy into his own man, Cooper DeJean, I believe it was, and he muffs it, and he sets Tampa up. And Tampa went up early in this game 21-0. So another stat, the Eagles are scoreless in the first quarter this season. They haven't scored.
No excuse.
So very concerning. They don't start fast at all. That
This
defense
was-
has bailed them out a couple times, but
Yeah, last week. Yeah, I mean this was one of my juicers. Coming into this, I was like, all right, Philly's defense. I said, I don't even care those receivers weren't playing because of how well Philadelphia was running the ball and how well their defense was playing, and I don't want to say Baker was inefficient. Obviously, he had a crazy good game week 1. Weeks 2 and 3, he didn't even hit 200 yards passing. He was just kind of almost game managing and just trying to get the dub. But then he comes out and is just absolutely on fire. Some of the throws Baker was making, he was threading needles, dude, left and right, just threading needles. Philly wasn't getting much of any pass rush. Baker just looked as comfortable as you probably ever see him, and he picked them apart. I was like, dude, this was not what I anticipated. Just not what I expected. And from the jump, I was like, this bet's fucked. Even if Barkley gets the 80 plus, there's no way Philly's going to cover. Like this game they needed to hold the Tampa to like 20 or less. And Tampa had 21 in the first quarter. So it's like, dude, or maybe it was 14 in the first quarter. But yeah, I mean, at halftime, you're down 24-7. But then they came out, scored a touchdown, right? Barkley had that big run, opening drive of the second half, gets them down inside the 10. They score a touchdown. It's a 10-point game now. And you're like, oh shit, there's a chance. They can get a stop, get some momentum going, but nope. Buccaneers went right down the field, 6-minute drive, punch it in. Game over.
yeah, I'm glad you didn't let us go without talking about how sharp Baker looked, because that was very impressive. That Bucs offense was really clicking, and to do that against the Eagles defense that played lights out the week before in New Orleans, I think that says a lot about the Bucs offense, and you got to feel good. Bucs are 3-1 right now. I think you got to feel good in that division the way everything else looks right now.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Denver Broncos getting their second win to move to 2-2, 10-9 over the Jets, who now fall to 2-2. 10-9. Bo Nix had 60 yards passing to finish the day and still gets the win. This was the Nate Hackett revenge game, and Nate Hackett didn't have it. The Jets offense did not have it in this one. Didn't even score a touchdown. It's all field goals on the day. And then in the end of the game, it came down to Zerline again, and he couldn't do it for him. This was a very ugly loss for the Jets. I got to ask, is it time to panic?
No, I just think it's time to change the mindset on the offensive, I guess, play calling or scheme or the game plan in general. It was pouring out like the first 3 quarters of this game. Rodgers threw the ball 42 times. Breece Hall had 10 rushing attempts. What are you doing? Why are you dropping
4
back?
yards.
Exactly. And then Braylon Allen had 8 attempts. He was much more efficient, but they ran the ball 18 times. I don't count Rodgers' rush attempts because those are just scrambles when you drop back to pass. So he had 47 dropbacks. Why do you have 47 dropbacks in a New York monsoon? It just doesn't make sense to me. And then I expected the Jets, because of how good that Denver secondary is and they've been playing, never would I have thought they would have had 40 pass attempts to 20 rushing attempts. I thought it would have been reversed. thought it would have been flip-flopped, which is why I love that rushing prop for Breece Hall going into the game, because Denver's rush defense hasn't been as strong as their pass defense, and it's a rainy game. I just didn't understand why the Jets were play calling the way that they were. That's what just confused me about this game. Denver was much more efficient. Javonte Williams actually looked like a running back, 16 for 77. McLaughlin, 9 for 46. Bo Nix didn't get that rushing prop I thought he would, but he threw the ball 25 times. So it was damn near even rush to pass for them. Just a weird game. We like the Broncos going in at +8. We probably should have made them a juicer, but just odd on the Jets side to me.
To touch on the Broncos, that defense continues to do it in Denver. They continue to shut teams down. And I don't believe Bo Nix didn't turn it over. Bidet did fumble in this game. But besides that, they didn't turn the ball over, and that's what would have killed you if this game was just so tight to the end.
Yeah.
And I do want to mention it was 6-0 in this game, and Denver just had nothing going for them. Bo Nix threw a dart in the middle of the field to Courtland Sutton, and that gave them a spark, and they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. But that was a phenomenal throw right in the middle of the field in between defenders, and that got the ball rolling for Denver later on in this game. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings winning again to move on to 4-0, beating their rival Green Bay Packers. Wow, they went up in this game 28-0, just blowing Green Bay's doors off. And then the second half of this game was completely, flip-flop. Green Bay makes a run at it, and they almost pull this off in the end and get a win. But the Vikings do squeak it out by 2, hang on to move on to 4-0, as I say. This offense is fun in Minnesota. Early in this game, they look so sharp out there. Darnold looks the weapons that they have, and you're seeing Aaron Jones in the run game. Like, how does Green Bay feel about that? What he just did to him when they bring in Josh Jacobs, who I know is a great back, but that's got to hurt seeing him look that good in purple. So Aaron Jones had another great game for him. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league. And it doesn't matter. We're seeing Sam Darnold is just shining in this Kevin O'Connell offense. Green Bay, credit to them, though, they didn't quit. They shut them down in the second half, and they really gave this game a go. But Minnesota hangs on. I do think it is promising to see how Jordan Love responded in the second half of this game. And you think that – I thought that at least that you get that feeling like, okay, Jordan Love's okay. There were definitely some concerns early in that first half. And we liked the Vikings in this game. They were part of that underdog parlay as well that the Saints blew. But I don't think this is a fluke by any means. I think this Minnesota Vikings team, offense, defense, the coaching, I think they're here to stay. And I think Green Bay is going to be fine. Like, to get back into this game, that just says a lot about this team's character, I think. And then Jordan Love, it was great to see the way he responded in the second half.
Yeah, we finally got to see a team kind of get after that Minnesota defense that's been dominant the first 3 games. It took a little bit for their offense to get going. Jordan Love hadn't played since the end of that week 1 game, and he got hurt, and he was still a little banged up. You can see him. He wasn't completely 100%, but he started getting into a rhythm, and then it was kind of over from there. And the biggest key factor to the loss for Green Bay, which, may be a bigger topic later this year, maybe not so later, maybe even more sooner, is their kicker. He went 0 for 2. They lose the game by 2 points. Your kicker goes 0 for 2. Topic of conversation. I think so. Might need to look at a new kicker. You never know. Other than that, love Jordan Addison. I think that kid has got a ton of potential, and they should target him minimum 6 to 8 times a game. Target Jefferson 10 times a game unless he's completely blanketed in double coverage. Jordan Addison 6 to 8 times. They need to get him. I think he just came back from injury, I believe, right? I think this was his first game back. I could be wrong though, but
yeah,
love Addison. Both these offenses were just really efficient, really good. Minnesota could have been 3 of 5 in the red zone's good. Green Bay was 4 of 5. Like they were efficient. Both of them played really well. I think for Minnesota, it helps having an actual running back. Last year they had was it Madison? I think Alexander Madison was their number one, which we all know he's not a number one. He's a really good number two, but he's not a number one. So Green Bay couldn't. It's just so weird seeing their game flow. Love throws 3 picks. That's also partly it, but it's just that Green Bay offense is kind of crazy. No matter, like, they got off to a little bit of a slow start. They didn't run the ball as well as they have been. Love throws 3 picks, and they still put up almost 30 points on what we think is a pretty good defense. So there's a lot to like about Green Bay too.
Jacksonville Jaguars fall to 0-4 on the season. Tough loss in Houston. Texans move on to 3-1. Final. This one was 24-20. Jags hung with them. They had an early lead in this game. They had a fortunate turnover that set them up, and they made it interesting. But at the end of the day, Stroud had a great day, and Nico Collins killed them in this game. What did he finish? He finished with 12 catches for 151 yards and a touchdown in this game on 15 targets. So Nico Collins continues to be just a dominant force in Houston. Diggs added 5 catches for 69 yards. And I think they're going to get Joe Mixon back this week against the Bills. So that's huge for them as well, just to add to that offense. But I thought CJ had a great day. He was sharp. I will say Tank Bigsby, maybe they consider giving him more carries in the future because he finished this day with 7 carries for 90 yards.
Oh yeah,
broke one carry in this game that really got the Jaguars going. So maybe Tank Bigsby gets more carries moving forward. But this is tough, man. Falling 0-4. How are we feeling about the Jags right now and their season as a whole?
I feel bad for Weed. So hopeful coming into the year. They renamed the stadium to Trevor Bank. And right now, the numbers that we're seeing, 18 of 33, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. I mean, you look at the touchdown to interceptions, you're like, oh, yeah, no, good game. No, forget about that. That was all set up by the run game. 18 of 33 for 169 yards. That is not good, ladies and gentlemen. That is just not good. That's Deshaun Watson level, actually. You want to talk about numbers? That's a stat line you see from Deshaun Watson, who everybody is shitting on right now. So I don't know what's going on with that off. Like we Trevor Lawrence, his rookie season, everyone gave him a pass, right? It was like, all right, Urban Meyer, rookie year, terrible situation. Urban didn't even want to be there. It is what it is. Pass, right? We'll give him a pass. It's a wash. Second year, you get Dougie in there, and Trevor looked good, and we're all like, okay, Trevor, he was worth the number 1 pick. Like, he's going to be really good in this league. Then last year, they start off 8-1 or whatever it was, and then went downhill. Trevor got hurt. He wasn't the same. And now this year, it's just bad. So it's not that, like, Jacksonville they just paid him. He's their guy. They got to figure it out. You've seen him do it. He can do it. He's capable, but there's something off right now. There's something wrong. As a close friend would say, something wrong. They got to figure it out. They got to. It's like the run game was efficient. It was good. You were good enough to win this game, and then you have the lead going into the fourth quarter, and you don't score a point. It's on the offense. The defense played very well to an extent. I know Nico killed them, but other than that, I thought the defense played really well. It's just they got to figure it out. Trevor, Dougie, it's on them.
There's a lot of bend, don't break in that Jaguars defense. I feel like they're one of those units. Yeah. There's a lot of bend, don't break. Give up the yards, but not the points at the end of the day.
Right.
Let's get into the rest of this late window. Washington Commanders just trounce the Arizona Cardinals 42-14 to move to 3-1 in the NFC East. Jaden Daniels, wow. He's setting not only rookie records, he's setting NFL records with how he's played his first 4 weeks. The efficiency is just off the charts again. 26 of 30 for 233 and a touchdown. Did throw a pick in this game. Didn't get sacked at all. Finished the day with a 96 QB rating. The run game was very effective for Washington once again. Robinson had over 100 yards. McNichols looked great when he got the ball. And then Jaden was great when he ran the ball. The receiving core, McLaurin, you didn't see him get going like he did on Monday night last week. But as a whole, I thought the unit played good. And Jaden is just bringing out the best in everyone on that offense, I think. I don't think skill-wise they have the best, they're in the top half necessarily as far as skill players as a unit in Washington. But Jaden is just so dynamic and he's so efficient right now. And he's making plays all over the field. He's bringing all of these guys up with him, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch a rookie quarterback play like this. And we thought this would be an exciting game. The over-under was sitting at 49, I believe. So you expected a lot of points, but you expected Arizona to be more competitive against this Washington Commanders defense. And give credit to the Commanders defense because this was the first week that you really saw them. Dan Quinn put a stamp on it. And who knows? Is this a turning point for that defensive unit, or there's just some major, major issues in Arizona right now? And that makes me feel even worse about the Rams' week 2 beatdown from the Cardinals.
Yeah, teams are always going to have like a dud performance, right? Like, that just, in my opinion, was one of them. But to speak on Jaden Daniels' efficiency, like just looking through all these receivers, he hit 9 different receivers. The only receiver that he targeted that he had an incompletion on the attempt was Terry McLaurin. 10 targets, 7 catches. Still pretty good catch ratio on the targets. Every other receiver is Zacchaeus, 6 for 6. Oh, I lied. Noah Brown, 3 of 4. Ertz, 3 of 3. McCaffrey, 1 of 1. Robinson, 3 of 3. Bates, 1 of 1. McNichols, 1 of 1. De'Ami Brown, 1 of 1. Just efficiency to everybody. He's not trying to do too much. He's taking what the defense gives him. Oh, and hey, by the way, he's going to be one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in our league. He gets another 47 yards on 8 carries. The kid's special. The kid's special, but I don't want to hear all this bullshit about him over Caleb Williams, so cut that. Don't care. Don't want to hear it. Other than that, though, Arizona, actually, before I get to them, Commanders did not think they'd be sitting on top of the division right now at 3-1. I did not see that coming because, their defense has been terrible. And coming into this game, I'm like, okay, Arizona's offense, pretty good. I know they didn't have Trey, but they can put up some points. That's why the game total was at 50, dropped to 49, I think before kickoff, but it hit, right? Commanders almost covered it by themselves. The Cardinals came out, first drive, score a touchdown. You're like, okay, this is what we expected. Washington comes right down, touchdown. You're like, here we go. Here we go. This is going to be fun. Arizona punts, Washington scores. Arizona punts, Washington turnover. Arizona punts, Washington field goal. Washington comes out right away in the second half, right away, boom, touchdown in like 2 minutes. And then Arizona gives it back. And then Washington scores. And it's like, holy shit, this is a blowout. They didn't even make it interesting, which is all we were hoping for in this game. We were just looking for a shootout with a lot of highlights, and it was really just like, holy shit, Jaden Daniels is really good. And we already had question marks about Arizona's defense, still there. Now we have question marks about their offense, which wasn't there until this week. Anytime you have what is expected to be a high-powered unit going against a poor unit, and that high-powered unit lays an egg, you got, naturally you have some question marks. This is what we got here.
Moving on, the New England Patriots lose their 3rd game in a row in San Francisco. 49ers bounce back, get a win 30-13. This is one of those games this week I don't want to spend too much time on because it's just kind of what you expected. I know the spread was 10 in this one. Total yards, Niners had 431, Patriots had 216. And then yards per play, the Niners averaged 7.2, Patriots 3.5. So got away from New England in this one. They gave it a fight for a bit in this one. I was proud of the Patriots for hanging in there the way they did. This was just a tough spot for them. The Niners losing 2 in a row, coming back at home. This is a really tough spot for the Patriots. And they ended up losing by 17. I thought Purdy had a pretty good game for the Niners. He was efficient. The one touchdown he threw to George Kittle, did you see that? There were like 3 guys on Kittle, and he jumped up and grabbed that and just mossed all of them. That was
what a grab.
Maybe the catch of the week. And then Jordan Mason got it done once again, 123 yards on the ground with a touchdown, averaging 5.1 a carry. So this Niners team, they're explosive. And I think that I know they're 2-2 right now. There's been some concerns, this first quarter of the season, but they have to be the favorite to win this division. Just from what you saw, we're going to get into Seattle, probably the last game, but their defense just doesn't look like I think if the Niners offense lined up against Seahawks defense right now, it's not going to be. And then the Rams defense, the Cardinals defense, I know we pulled off a win against them last week, but I just think the Niners are far and above the NFC West right now, and you're going to see them, go on a bit of a run here.
Yeah, I mean, this was what we expected. I had one debate on that 7-leg teaser parlay that I put together. 5 out of 7 hit. One that didn't was this. And my one debate was which I already put the Titans. I had the Titans in the underdog money line parlay. And I was like, let me double up on them. I was like, nah, you know what? Let me give this Patriots team a chance. Let me give them a shot at 16.5. I was like, come on, maybe they lose by 17, but come on. Well, they did. They did. Niners kick a field goal with 4 minutes left in the game, put them up 17. Patriots can't come down and score any points. And that would have been the ultimate backdoor, because that is what teams do when they're down 3 possessions and they're as bad as the Patriots are. They'll come down and kick a field goal just to make themselves feel better at the end of the game. And that's all I was hoping for, and they still couldn't even get that. So the question now moving forward, we know how good the Niners are. We know how bad the Patriots are. The question is, when are we going to see Drake May? And I hate to ask it this early in the season because, if the kid's not ready, he's not ready. But at some point, it's like, are you going to keep putting Brisket out there? Can't have Jacoby Brisket out there every week. Can't watch this. Do you think the fans are going to keep showing up? No. I tell you what, they're going to wait for ticket sales to go down. And as soon as ticket sales go down, they're going to announce, all right, Drake May is going to be the starter. Sales come back up. This kid's got confidence is going to get shot. And then we're going to go from there. But no, I really hope it doesn't play out that way. But I would like to see Drake May. I think it can't get much worse offensively, right?
Looking ahead on their schedule, they're playing Miami this week at home.
Good time to do
so
it.
That they gotta. I mean, yeah, honestly, it's not a bad time to start your rookie in that game. The way the Dolphins offense looked, Both teams are 1-3. Maybe if you lose this one, then because I haven't heard anything about Drake May at all up to this point.
Yeah.
So if you lose this one, fall to 1-4, maybe that is the time. So we'll see what happens with that.
Right. Oh, wait. Go and grab a beer. Beer beat.
All right. Let's cap off this late window with a sloppy game where the under was a very intriguing pick all week, and that is the Cleveland Browns, Las Vegas Raiders. Those Raiders pull off the win 20-16. Like I said, this was another brutal game. Browns offensively. I just want to say that talk about Deshaun Watson. I'm certainly not upset seeing him have to deal with what he has to deal with on this team right now. It doesn't, grind my gears or make me feel bad for him at all. But I will say, this dude's got no help right now. This offensive line is horrible. Talked about last week. Giants had 36 pressures on them. Last time they did that was 2007 with Osi Umenyiora. So this week was just like that. Max Crosby wasn't even in the game. Can you imagine if Max Crosby did play? How bad this would have been for the Browns, because just every time the dude takes a snap, he's running for his life. There's guys all over him. O-linemen just aren't getting a body on anybody. There's just guys flying all around. And he's having to scramble around and make these incredible throws on the run. And then when he does make those throws, it's going through his receivers' hands. It's going off their chests into defenders for an interception to add to your stat sheet. Finishes the day 24-32, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, and then that pick that Amari Cooper should have easily caught and turned into an interception. And somehow he only finished the day getting sacked 3 times. So that just furthers the, his mobility is there. He's escaping, he's evading, he's making things work on the fly. He's doing that. He's doing his part. Accuracy obviously hasn't been the best throughout the season. We've talked about that. The accuracy has not been good. But how would most of these quarterbacks' accuracy be if you're running for your life every single play? And it's like, even when you do have that rare pocket, you're still thinking about it because you're just getting hit so much that you're never comfortable as a quarterback. So he's going through it right now. Like I said, it's not it is what it is, seeing Deshaun Watson have to suffer in that. But the Raiders, they move on to 2-2. They did let Davante Adams seek trade opportunities. I think that just came out today. And we talked about it in the past. Is Davante Adams potentially get moved throughout this season? They are 2-2 right now, but they're shopping Adams. So what does that tell you? And then talk to me about the Browns as a whole right now.
I mean, we talked about Vegas coming into this one as underdogs, and it was like, how does it? I mean, I know that their top 2 players on their team aren't playing, but the way that offensive line has been playing for Cleveland is not worthy of them being a favorite against anybody. So to me, that was just odd. The line moved a whole 5 points. Because you don't when they're grading these players, there are players who move the line, right? There's players who move the line. Those are your top of the line players who have a huge impact on teams. A quarterback, that's when a line really moves that much, is when your starting quarterback goes down if you don't have a reliable backup, or if you have a star quarterback and you're not on a great team. That's when it normally moves that much. But their wide receiver and then their best defensive player, edge rusher, go out and that line moves that much. It's just kind of weird to me. The game started off that way, though. Cleveland went up 10-0. By the end of the first quarter, they're up 10-0. And then it was all Raiders from there. So odd to me was Cleveland's choice. Watson wasn't terribly inefficient. He had a 75% completion percentage, going 24-32, but the yards per attempt is not great, and his wide receivers aren't helping him out, especially Amari, who's supposed to be their guy. He's doing the shit that he's doing. And it's kind of been every game. Each game you watch, you see Amari do something where it's like, dude, what is going on with you? And when he is engaged and motivated, Amari Cooper can be, even at this point in his career, borderline top 10, definitely top 15 receiver in this league. So some of the stuff we're seeing from him early is just uncharacteristic. I expect him to clean it up and do a lot better moving forward. I think David Njoku coming back soon is going to be a big boost for their offense. it's really just about getting that offensive line healthy. You get Njoku back, you get your offensive lineman back, and you get Chubb back. Now we're talking. Now I can start to look past some of what Deshaun Watson is doing. But to your point, it's not all on him. It's not fair for us to just sit here and be like, Deshaun sucks, Deshaun sucks, Deshaun sucks. Has he been bad? Yeah. Is it warranted? Kinda. Because their offensive line has been that bad. So I just don't understand, though. Again, like I talked about it in the other game with the Jets, here with Cleveland, you got Jerome Ford, 10 attempts for 58 yards. It's pretty efficient. I mean, he had a 35-yard run, so other than that, it was 9 for 23, which is just, 2.5 yards a carry. But it's like, in a game where you're not moving the needle with the pass, why not run it more? Watson had 8 carries for 32, but I can't imagine those are designed runs, which means they really drop back 40 times. So I don't know. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now as a team with all the injuries. It's really just about them getting healthy. It doesn't help. What helps is Cincinnati getting out to the bad start. Baltimore only 2-2 right now. They're only a game behind Baltimore. As bad as it looks, they're only a game behind Baltimore. And if you had to have it your way, right now you would want the Steelers to be leading the division, and they are. Because if there's one team we don't expect to hold on to that division lead, it's the Steelers. Now, is that saying the Steelers aren't good? No, it's just saying that we expect the Ravens and even the Bengals to an extent to really start rolling here soon. And maybe the Bengals, this is what they needed, was the win this week. They're going to get rolling. The Ravens, we'll get to them. We know what they bring to the table. So the Browns, they got to get healthy. They got to get healthy. The Raiders, yeah, you win. You're 2-2, but you just gave your best player the opportunity to seek a trade. So what are you really doing? Giving up. That's what it sounds like.
Let's get into prime time. Sunday Night Football. It was the game of the week. We were all excited for it. Turned out to be a dud. The Ravens just terrorized the Buffalo Bills in the run game. We'll have to win 35-10. This was one of the ones where we loved the under. It was winning my juice pack. And we were shy of that because the Bills just didn't show up. They didn't show up to party. It was all the Ravens. They ended up 271 yards on the ground. You saw Henry early in that game bust an 87-yard run for a touchdown, and Buffalo was in for a long night after that. I thought the Ravens defense played very good. They were making life very difficult and hectic for Josh Allen, and the Bills just really never got anything going. They fell behind early in this game because that defense, who has looked really good, but we said, like, this is the real test. This is a real test going to Baltimore, and it's not a good sign that you get it ran down your throat the way they did. But just to touch on the Bills, this is a tough spot. Ravens playing it Sunday night at home. They're wearing the all black. Need a win to get back 2-2. Can't fall to 1-3. Everything in the Bills has just been positive, positive, positive. This was the time to fade Buffalo, if there was a time.
Big time.
And the Ravens gave it to them. But I expect the Bills got to feel good, especially after seeing what the Jets did, what the Dolphins offense looks like right now without Tua, if Tua is even coming back. And then obviously the Patriots are what they are. They've got to be the firm favorite in the AFC East still. So I'm not overreacting by any means, just because, what the scoreboard said at the end, 35-10. The Ravens are phenomenal, and we expected them to get back on track, and they did. And them getting that run game going is a scary, scary sign for the rest of the league, because Lamar looks very efficient right now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the first time we've seen Josh Allen so far this year look human. Obviously, he's received a ton of praise, and deservingly so. But we all know you come back down to earth at some point. This was it. This was really, we're going to talk about it with the Seahawks. For the Bills, this was kind of their first test. I mean, week 1, you got the Cardinals. You started off shaky. The Cardinals came out hot. Probably their best half of football they played this year was the first half of week 1. And no, I lied. They played well against the Rams. Sorry, but they come out. You get the Cardinals. You come back. You win in that game. Offense looks great. Defense cleaned up second half. Next week you get the Dolphins, where Tua ends up getting hurt, and then you get the Jags, who are just dismantled. Now you get the Ravens in a good spot for the Ravens, as you mentioned. So this was like the real test, and they had the opportunity. They came out, they scored first possession of the second half. It's now 21-10. They got to stop. They got the ball back. They had an opportunity. You go down and you score, whole new ball game. It's 21-17, whole new ball game. They didn't, though. This was the first game. Josh Allen wasn't very efficient. He didn't really get a whole lot done with his legs either, just 5 of 21. So, yeah, I mean, this was what we expected Baltimore to be. And then defensively, to a lesser extent, of course, this is kind of where I saw the Bills defense just not being able to stop the run. And they got torn apart. But to be fair, Bills, you're not the only defense they tore apart. They tore apart my Dallas Cowboys, and they're going to tear apart a lot of defenses for the rest of the year. It's a very, very tough run game to stop. When Lamar Jackson, like against Dallas, he only threw the ball, I think, like 12 or 13 times because he didn't have to throw. And then this week, he was 13 of 18, 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. If Lamar Jackson only has to drop and throw the ball 15 times a game, and he can be that efficient, that means they're doing a lot on the ground game. They're doing a lot on the ground. The Ravens, we know what their defense can bring. I think the more that you see their new D coordinator get games under his belt, the more their defense is going to step up throughout the year, just repetition, getting more camaraderie, a lot more chemistry, knowing what they have. So not selling on the Bills here, but this was a great spot for the Ravens. Bills got to bounce back. I expect them to. Josh Allen, he'll bounce back as well.
Before we move on, I just want to touch on Justice Hill. I don't think this guy's got enough recognition, enough appreciation for what he's done for this team. And he's been there for some years now. And there were always those running backs getting hurt, like Dobbins getting hurt every year the way he was. Justice Hill has been there year in, year out to step up for this team. So I just want to give him a shout out. He finished the day being their leading receiver. He's just so dynamic. And you see him picking up these conversions on 3rd and long where Lamar will dump it off to him and he'll make 2 guys miss, pick up the first down. That's such a weapon to have just to move the chains. Justice Hill, like I said, finished the day 6 catches, 78 yards, and had a touchdown. Let's get into Monday night, though. Sloppy game in Miami. 31-12. The Tennessee Titans get their first dub of the season. We begged for Tyler Huntley going into this game, but did not look pretty. Did not look pretty at all for the Miami Dolphins offensively in this one. There were some times where Tyreek had beaten Snead or other guys, on what could have been a deep ball that he scored, and Huntley just couldn't get the ball to him. So that's why I add, like, if this Tua thing drags on and Miami's not going to have a quarterback this season, you got to imagine some of those guys making the money that they are, as talented as they are, do they get impatient with this team if they just can't put it together and put points up on the board? That's going to be a real conversation, I think. And another thing is, this is back-to-back weeks where Mike McDaniel, your offense, I know you don't have a quarterback, but it's unwatchable. And for a guy getting the amount of hype and recognition that he was when this team was taken off as an offensive juggernaut, it doesn't even look competitive from an offensive side of things for the Miami Dolphins. They can't run the ball. They can't get the run game going at all. And it's just, there's nothing to it. Like I said, there were some times where they could have connected on explosive plays in this game, and Huntley just missed the throw. So that was unfortunate. Titan side of things, Will Levis stretches out for a first down early in this game, gets hurt, and it looked like he was good to go, like he was ready to come back in the game, but Callahan just wrote it out with Mason Rudolph the rest of the game, and he finished 9 of 17 for 85 yards. Tony Pollard, it was good to see him get going in this game. Brutal beat to finish this that I talked to you about already late in this game when the Dolphins have this stupid onside punt and somehow like they recovered it. Nobody knows what's happening. The Dolphins think they have the ball, but somehow the Titans get the ball now set up like in Dolphins territory. It was crazy. And then it's fourth down. The game's already over. And they run the ball with Tony Pollard, and he scores a touchdown to kill the under. So just a brutal beat. And I've already gone in on Brian Callahan at one point for just what you don't do as a head coach. And this is another one of those things. I don't think McDaniel, I mentioned it to you, even shook his hand after the game. And that's why I was watching the rest of it because I expected, something to boil over potentially after this game had ended, because you just don't do that when the game's over. We saw Arthur Smith take it up with Dennis Allen last year in that Saints-Falcons game. It's just one of those things where it's like, have respect for your opponent at the end of the day. The game's over. Like, kick the field goal. And Nick Folk, I think they were saying he'd never had 6 field goals in a game. So that could have been a time where he could have gotten 6 field goals and underbettors would have been satisfied. But that rubbed me the wrong way, certainly. And the Miami Dolphins offense, it doesn't look pretty right now. They're playing New England this coming week. That's going to be an under. That's very intriguing. Could fit its way into the juice pack. But what were your thoughts on this one?
I want to see actually where that line is. I'd like to know where that opened up. I would expect something like 36, which is extremely low. But for these two teams, I think so. For Miami specifically, I think they're going to be okay. Like, we saw Huntley miss on some throws, but like, when's the last time
35 and a half. Nailed it.
Money. When's the last time this guy's played like meaningful minutes in a football game? Probably his Pro Bowl season. A couple years ago. Does anybody remember that? This kid's a Pro Bowler. So I think that they'll, clean that side of things up. I think that Huntley fits this scheme well. McDaniels is a very, very smart offensive schemer, right? Because I was going to say coordinator. He's a head coach now. But, like, the dude knows how to call, and he knows how to draw up offensive plays. I think they're going to be okay. You got the weapons around them. The one thing that is concerning is the run game, right? Like, why are you struggling so much in the run game? It's the one thing that we expect them to be able to do at least somewhat well, and they are not doing it well at all. They can't run the ball at all. So that's a little concerning. I think that maybe people will start to be like, okay, maybe we were a little too hard on Tua. Maybe Tua is actually a decent quarterback. This offense is night and day without him. And I know we're talking about, Skylar Thompson. Sorry, buddy, but you didn't look like you belonged on the field with anybody else. Give him a pass on that one. Tyler Huntley, he's a capable quarterback. We'll see here in the next few weeks. I'm not going to judge them too hard off of this one game. But I think people might start asking, like, maybe Tua was better than we thought, because this offense is night and day without him. Tennessee, God, dude, Will Levis, that first interception, like, what are you looking at? He came over to the sidelines and everyone's saying, like, he came over to the sidelines and he lipped like I didn't see him. How? That's a big boy. That's a defensive lineman that dropped back. I get it. Sometimes you miss them, you overlook them. It's a D lineman. You didn't expect him to drop back, whatever the case is. But, like, that's a big guy to not see, So I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. It's one of those. This is, again, one of those teams that has a lot to like other than the quarterback position. And you talked about it. You don't like that combo, that head coach quarterback combo. You don't, I mean, you want to see the Mayo God maybe get some different what's I'm looking for? Some different
mentorship.
yes, thank you. Other than Cal.
I believe they have a bye this week. They got a bye, and then they're hosting Indy. So they do have a week to ponder that decision.
I feel like that's always a good game, those two.
Yeah. Let's get into the final game. That second Monday night matchup, that was an absolute shootout in Detroit. Lions pull off the win 42-29 over the Seahawks. Both teams are now 3-1. I think this was a real come down to earth moment for that Seattle Seahawks defense, who we talked about has looked really good first part of the season, but they hadn't been tested. And they got tested in Detroit, and Detroit went up on them early in this game. It was 21-7, I believe. Geno, I think, ended up dropping back like 56 times in this game. So they were playing from behind the entire game. But credit to him in that offense. And Kenneth Walker is, God, that guy's fun to watch. He's a dominant force at running back. Seattle, they were competitive in this game. So I feel good about the Seahawks offensive unit. But the defense, man, that's bad. Like Goff finished the day not even throwing an incompletion just to look as comfortable as he did. He finished 18 of 18 for 292, 2 touchdowns. Like it doesn't get any better than that. And for a defense, you were just making it way too easy on him. And then in the run game, he gave up 116 yards on the ground as well. Gibbs had a couple of touchdowns. Montgomery had one. That Jameson Williams play, that's just like another, that shows you the other aspect, like the other element. Like they could beat you bully football, just running it down your throat. They have arguably the best O-line in the league, 2 great backs, 2 Pro Bowl backs. And then you have St. Brown, who's a number 1 receiver. Laporta, we haven't seen him get going yet this season. I know he's dealt with injuries, but Laporta's a great tight end, and they always have that. To have Jameson Williams, though, like they're just throwing a simple, like 20-yard crossing route, and he takes it like 60 yards because his speed is just unmatched. Nobody can catch him. So that's just a whole nother element to this offense that it's tough to beat. When you combine that with the run game, we talked about it last week. When Jared Goff's got a really good run game, he excels in play action, and we saw that again. He looked phenomenal on Monday night. This Lions team is going to be tough. Obviously, the defense has been inconsistent, and then they kind of got lit up in this game. Like Geno gave it to him, and then Kenneth Walker had some runs that he broke off in this game. So defense, I think, has to be a bit of concern for Detroit. And then the Seahawks, I think they are what we think. Like they're going to be able to put up points with some teams. But that defense, I think it's going to take some time for McDonald to really get his system and his guys in place there.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle had over 500 yards of total offense. Like it was, they got whatever they wanted. I think it just at times, like I know they missed a field goal. DK had that one fumble where he caught it and was just like, sometimes when DK looks like he's playing angry, he's like, get out of the fucking way, dude. He just runs a guy over, like stiff arms another guy, takes a couple steps, breaks another tackle. Finally, someone gets his legs, and as he's going to stretch, Campbell, not Dan, Campbell came in, linebacker, hits him from the side, ball comes out. Detroit takes it, runs it back inside the red zone, and now they're set up with another great scoring opportunity that they capitalized on. But it was like a play like that. Seattle was going down there and scoring, no doubt about it. Like they got a lot of whatever they wanted. Geno took a few sacks. We talk about it. Sacks are drive killers. Penalties for them, 9 for 70. Detroit had a lot of penalties as well. So, no excuse there. But, yeah, I mean, that was really what kind of killed some of their drives were the penalties, sacks. Otherwise, 500 yards of total offense. It's not – I don't know the stats on that, but bet if we look it up, not many teams lose getting over 500 yards of total offense. So, with this one, this was also one of the juicers, but I saw it going the other way. The last time the Lions played Mike Macdonald, he was with the Ravens, and they held him to 6 points. They held Goff and that offense to 6 points. Different team, different personnel. I get it. But I took Lions minus 3.5, which did hit, but I wanted to throw the under in there, under 46. Didn't work out. Fun game, though. Yeah, fun game to watch, though. I think there's a couple things about the Seattle team. One is you already touched on. This was like the Bills. This was kind of their first real test. They didn't play a very good team yet. Now they just did. They played one of the favorites in the NFC, and their defense kind of got exposed. I expect McDonald to clean that up, though, and moving forward, I think Seattle can do some things. You see what Seattle has on the offensive side of the ball. Geno is obviously a reliable quarterback. They have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. We all know what DK is. Smith and Jigba is one of those guys that a lot more people are going to get to know his name if they don't. And Tyler Lockett's just the all-reliable guy. And then you get Noah Fant, not to mention the run game with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet to complement him. Like, they have a lot to like on the offensive side of the ball, and with McDonald getting that defense up to speed and, shoring up those soft spots. Like, this is a good game for them to learn from. And I expect their defense and their team just in general to bounce back. I think the Seahawks, we're going to be putting a lot of bets on them down the line. I know you don't like to hear that, Pat, but I think we will.
Yeah, they can hang with teams. And like you said, that DK fumble early in that game, that really set them behind because Detroit was able to just, touchdown. And then when you turn it over in the middle of that sequence, you're playing from behind the whole game, and they just couldn't get back after that. But like you said, over 500 yards of offense, a lot of things to like from that Seattle offense. But that is it for our Week 4 NFL recap. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube right now, to like and subscribe. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We will see you on later this week with our Week 5 preview. Goodbye.
Peace.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up